All governments say, my money is safe, and every government believes that the promises it makes will last forever. But history, especially when combined with recent events, has proven time and time again that they were all wrong. From America to Rome, from France to modern-day Lebanon, people woke up one morning to the same reality. Their savings were worthless, their wages meaningless, and their futures placed at risk by the very system they trusted. Collapses are not rare. Collapses are, in fact, the rule. The real question is this: do financial systems collapse? Yes, they do. But when they collapse, how do you protect yourself? The greatest illusion is believing that money is permanent. We look at the balance in our bank accounts, at the paper bills in our hands, and assume they rest on solid ground. But money is not a foundation. Money is only trust, and trust can disappear overnight. That is why history is ruthless, but also deeply instructive. Every collapse leaves clues behind. It shows what truly protects and what turns to dust in an instant. And if you pay close attention, you will notice something. Those who survive these disasters are not the ones who trust the system the most. They are the ones who question it the earliest. The story of the Byzantine Empire is a perfect example. At the heart of its economy was a gold coin called the salaries. It was so trusted that it was accepted without hesitation from Europe to the Middle East. For its time, it was almost a global reserve currency. You already know how Rome destroyed its silver denarius by continuously debasing it until it became little more than a piece of tin. You would think Byzantium learned from that mistake, wouldn't you? But no. Centuries later, they made the same mistake, this time with gold. They slowly reduced the purity of the coin, mixing in cheaper metals. At first, no one noticed. Then, trust cracked. A coin that once formed the foundation of trade suddenly became a political illusion. The result? Merchants who held real gold or land the empire could not borrow against preserved their wealth. Everyone else watched their money melt away. This is the first universal lesson. Governments can never resist the temptation to debase money. Real value always finds a way to escape. But not every collapse comes from the mistakes of rulers. Sometimes shock arrives suddenly. In the 14th century, the Black Death struck Europe. Half the population died. Cities emptied. Trade collapsed. Yet the economic outcome was fascinating. With so many people gone, the remaining labor force became worth its weight in gold. Survivors were able to demand higher wages. Land that had once been extremely expensive was sold for next to nothing. In short, those with capital or productive power seized one of the greatest opportunities in history. If this story sounds familiar, it should. We experienced the same thing during COVID. Supply chains collapsed, governments printed trillions, and those with liquid capital accumulated assets, while those dependent on wages fell further behind. The lesson is simple. Crises reward those with reserves and punish those without. The collapse of Florence reveals another truth. There is no such thing as too big to fail. In the 1340-50s, massive banks at the center of European finance collapsed because of loans made to King Edward of England. The king stopped paying. Banks fell like dominoes. Citizens lost their savings and the city was shaken. The people of that era learned a painful truth. The size of an institution is not a guarantee for you. They exist for profit. And when they fail, they take you down with them. This story repeated itself in 2008, during the 2019 Lebanon crisis, and in U.S. regional banks in 2023. The American Civil War shows how a nation's own money can become worthless. The North printed greenbacks, the South printed graybacks. The South acted more recklessly, and in the end, its currency became trash. Millions saw their wages lose value before they even reached their hands. Who was protected? Those with real assets, gold, land, food. Revolutionary France in the 1790s. The government introduced a new currency called the assignat. It was backed by church lands, but they lost control and printed endlessly. The result? Massive inflation, worthless money, and breadlines once again. The winners were the same as always, those who held food, gold, and property. The Asian financial crisis of 1997. Countries had borrowed in US dollars. When their currencies collapsed, the debt became impossible to repay. Unemployment, bankruptcies, economic collapse followed. Who survived? Those who held dollars and assets abroad. The universal lesson: borrowing in someone else's currency is suicide. And the closest example, Lebanon, 2019 to 2021. Banks locked their doors. People's accounts were frozen. The currency lost more than 90% of its value. The middle class vanished overnight. Who survived? Those who did not keep their money in banks, who spread it abroad, who held gold or property. Now let's look at the bigger picture. Paper money collapses. Debt enslaves both nations and families. Trust is always the first thing to break, and survivors are always those who see it early. So how do you protect yourself? History does not give a single formula, but it repeats the same theme: real assets, real skills, and recognizing early that the system is an illusion. Collapse is both destruction and opportunity. For the unprepared, it is disaster. For the prepared, it is the opportunity of a lifetime. In the 1340s, land became cheap. In 2008, those with cash bought houses. Every crisis is a period where wealth changes hands. But wealth is not only what you own, it is what you can do. People who can bake bread, produce, repair, and create value are never truly poor. Because even in times of crisis, people eat, fix things, and trade. This is real protection. A little assets, a little skill, and a little awareness. The final question is this: when the system collapses, will you be holding something real or just a handful of empty promises? History does not repeat itself, but if you ignore it, it crushes you. If this perspective resonated with you, subscribe. History tells the story. I show you where to look.